Online fan turned stalker. In late July, I got a puppy. One night around 2 a.m., I took him outside to go to the bathroom. While he was doing his business, I noticed a car parked outside my family home. I saw a figure in the car, and could tell they were looking at me, but I couldn't make out their face because it was pitch black outside. Feeling a bit uneasy, I picked up my puppy to take him back inside, and when I started to move, the car parked in my driveway. I sprinted back inside and locked the door, but they never approached my house. The next morning, I went to check the mail. There was an envelope addressed to my name with $20 in it, but no note. I was currently still at home with my parents who had no idea about my account, so I didn't mention it to them. A week later, I moved back to my college town to get ready to start school. At this time, I had stopped posting for the time being until I could figure out how they got my address. I've watched enough crime shows to know there's a possibility I could be in danger. I live in a duplex with a gated parking lot. One morning, I was planning on vlogging my trip to Target, because I was planning on starting a YouTube channel in the near future, since I felt unsafe. When I got to my car, it had been ransacked, and my vlogging camera was missing. I know, it's my fault for leaving it in my car, but I was using it the night before, and since I live in a gated area, I didn't think I would be unsafe. It wasn't in plain sight either, I had hidden it in my glove box. I used that camera to film my content, and the SD card that was in there had all of my unreleased photos and videos. I know they stole it just for the SD card. Anyways, this is where the story gets weird. There are cameras outside in the parking lot, so we were able to watch this person break into my car and find the camera. And they didn't touch any of the 7 other cars on the lot. They knew which car was mine, which suggests they had been watching me for a bit. After they got the camera, they walked around the duplex until stopping near my window. My bedroom faces an outside street, and my blinds are broken so it's very easy to see in. I have a curtain, but it doesn't cover my window all the way. This person watched me sleep for an hour or so. I have no idea why they didn't try to break in, but thank God they didn't. This person then sold the camera to a pawn shop, and since I knew the serial number, the police were able to find it. However, my SD card was missing. I believe the police are still trying to track them down, but I have broken my lease and moved to a new place, so hopefully that will keep me safe. Internet friend obsessed with me for 3 years. When I was in 8th-10th grade, I was extremely involved in this small building server. The average age was probably 15 to 17 years old, and I joined a group of builders, and Skyped with them every weekend for hours. We all became close fast, and trusted each other enough that we followed each other on Instagram. I became particularly close with one of the builders in my friend group named Peter. Peter was in the same grade as me and we ended up texting quite a lot. I heard rumors that Peter might have a crush on me. He denied them, which I found laughable, because it was the internet, and brushed it off. Everything was fine for a while until something began to feel quote-unquote off when I talked to him. I was starting to constantly catch him telling small lies. This bothered me, so I figured it was time to distance myself from Peter, and stop talking to him. Cut to a few months later of no contact, and Peter out of the blue texts me that he's going to be possibly transferring to my high school, so he can get in-state tuition for college. Peter's plan is to somehow live completely alone, and support himself while in high school. My stomach drops when I read the text, and I know this feels very, very off. I try to be calm and I tell him that his plan is crazy. I tell him that it's oddly convenient that he chose my random suburb. Peter insists that his plan will work, and it's just a coincidence that he is going to my HS. I'm trying to call Peter's bluff, and hoping he is just screwing with me because I cut him off. Peter says he bought the plane tickets already, and is going to stay in my town, and to visit some high school in the area. Fear washes over me, and I realize Peter definitely has some very unhealthy attachment to me. Peter was not bluffing. To my horror, he posts a picture on Snapchat at the airport. Peter asks to meet up while he's there, and I, of course, decline. Later, I see on his Snapchat story that he is taking a tour of my high school. Peter is taking lots of videos, and pictures, probably hoping that I can see. Luckily I am stuck at home with pneumonia. I spend the next few days on edge, and afraid he was going to ring my doorbell at any moment. Luckily he was not smart enough to find where I lived, and he flies home and does not follow his plan. The baffling part was, none of my old group on the Minecraft server thought he's doing anything creepy. I felt like I was going crazy for thinking this was weird. I thought my rejection for this meetup, and continued no contact, would be the end of it, but about 2 years later, and I just committed to my dream college. I still, stupidly, followed Peter on social media, because I wanted some warning if he came to my area. Once again Peter did. I see him posing in front of the library at my college with the caption saying, "Transferring here is definitely the move." Cut to a few months later, Peter finds out I had a boyfriend and directly contacts me for the first time in 2 years. He starts asking strange questions like, "Will he protect you?" I shouldn't have answered, but for some reason I did. I finally blocked him and stopped following him on social media out of fear. He has not tried to contact me since. Definitely made some mistakes because I was young and scared and had others telling me it was not a big deal. Almost got jumped. This story is from about 15 years ago. I was walking home from work at about 9 p.m. The walk was about 1 mile total, and this time I took a route that wasn't along a main road. I walked through a side road through a neighborhood instead. Before reaching the actual neighborhood there's an empty field to my right, and a couple of parking lots to my left. Just as I entered the neighborhood, I heard running footsteps behind me that sounded like a horse galloping, and I instantly knew what was going on. A group of people were trying to jump me. I also instantly knew I had to get back to the main road so I'd be around more people and lighting. I leapt forward into the side road while looking back. 3 bigger guys coming right towards me like a football game. One of them said, "If I run, I'll make it worse." I immediately ran to the right side of them in a full sprint. The taller guy reached for my shirt but he didn't get me. They continued to chase me at full speed. Halfway through the empty field I looked back while running, and the only one still chasing me was the taller guy. The other 2 guys were tired out walking towards us, but I heard one of them say to chase me down. The guy chasing me was literally reaching for me while running. He came so close, but I was sprinting with everything I had. He finally gave up as I came closer to the shopping center parking lot on the other side of the field. After that I went into the McDonald's, and drank a cup of water while catching my breath. I was breathing heavily. Anyways, I called my friend who lived close by and he picked me up with a couple of his friends and drove me home. Saved by a stranger. The story I'm about to tell you happened yesterday night. I live in Nantes, West France. I'm quite a petite girl, and I avoid confrontation whenever I can. I'm pretty good at it, because since I can remember, I had a very strong, sixth sense thing. I try to avoid people who make me anxious. It allowed me to survive some very dangerous situations, and prevent one kidnapping, but that is not part of the story. Yesterday, I visited a very close friend of mine. A few days ago, she broke her leg, so I decided to cheer her up by giving her a few gifts. The atmosphere was so nice, that I didn't notice when it got dark outside. Despite the late hour, I decided to go home. I said goodbye to my friend and left her apartment. I was about 40 minutes from home, but I walked this distance many times without any problems, so I thought it would be the same this time. Oh, how wrong I was. Less than 5 minutes passed, and I just felt it was going to be hell. I was approaching one of the many bridges in our city. I didn't see anyone around. I thought my senses were playing a trick on me. This happened before, so I kept going. The bridge was about 20 meters in front of me, before I heard a conversation and a giggle. I turned my head slightly, and saw 3 men walking towards me. I felt a cold sweat on my back, but it was too late to turn back. I didn't want to show them that I was afraid. I know this type of behavior provokes more harassment. I kept walking, but turned the music down. I didn't take my headphones off, because I didn't want them to know about my suspicions. I heard their footsteps behind my back. They were saying something, but I didn't know what because they were speaking in a different language. I was already on the bridge when they caught up with me. As I said, I'm a petite girl. They were over 180 centimeters tall. They surrounded me. I had no choice but to go ahead. A shudder ran through my body. I didn't know what they wanted, or what they were saying, but I felt that I was in danger. They kept talking to me. They leaned over me, and whispered something into my ears. And they laughed. This sound will haunt me for the rest of my life. At one point they noticed I was doing my best to ignore them. And then the worst began. They started making animal noises. It may sound strange and maybe even funny, but it was terrifying to me. They howled, growled, whistled, and kissed the air loudly. They did these things very close to my face. I was desperate, but where would I go? I was on the bridge. I would kill myself if I jumped into the water, or at least break both my legs, if I were lucky. Those 2 minutes to cross the bridge felt like an eternity for me. When we got to the end of the bridge, I was sweaty, close to tears. I thought I was going to throw up. I was shaking, which seemed to amuse them even more. And then a miracle happened. Someone called my name, very loud. I looked up, and saw someone approaching us. He was a very tall man, several years older than me. But I didn't know him. I had no idea who he was, or how he knew my name. But it didn't matter at the time. I felt he was my guardian angel. He came over to us, and was staring furiously at the 3 strangers. I didn't see their faces, but they fell silent. "What are you doing to my girlfriend?" he asked, still frowning at them. He stretched out his hand in my direction, never taking his eyes off them. "Come on, sweetheart." I did not wait. I didn't know who he was, why he was helping me, but I didn't care. I gripped his hand tightly and almost nestled against his shoulder. My heart was beating fast and loud, but I was so thankful that he came to help me. 3 strangers and my savior exchanged glances. They were silent. I was starting to panic that they would attack him, because he was there alone, and I wouldn't have the strength to help him if they would attack. But it didn't happen. I almost heard their teeth grinding when he muttered something. My savior held my hand tightly and watched them. They turned back and went back on the bridge. We stood in the same place for some time. He looked at me and smiled. And at that moment my body gave up. I started shaking uncontrollably, and I almost drowned in my own tears. He didn't say a word, he just held my hand, and gave me time to cool down. After a long moment, he offered to take me home. We walked slowly, and talked about various things. Actually, he was talking all the time, I was just nodding. I found out he was walking near the bridge, and noticed the whole scene. He decided to react, and help me if it turned out that his assumptions were correct. I asked him how he knew me, and how he knew my name. He looked surprised, then smiled, and said he didn't know my name. He used this name because it is one of the most popular in our country. When we got home, I was still shaky but happy. I offered him something to drink, but he kindly declined and we said goodbye. I can't believe how lucky I was yesterday. If I hadn't met him, I don't know if I could write about it today. So Luke, thank you. Thank you so much for saving me. I hope to meet you one day. As to these 3 strangers, I hope one day you will understand that your behavior is reprehensible and you will change your attitude to women who walk alone. And I hope to never meet you again. My kid's stalker. About a year ago, someone knocked on my bedroom window around 8 or so. I was just sitting there watching TV, and I heard it. I called husband's name, and he went to go check. My daughter, 13 years old, came out of the bathroom and said, she thinks she might have heard someone knock on the bathroom window. No one was very scared by this because our neighborhood is very active, and people are always outside, so we reasoned it was just some odd noise, and let it go. About an hour later, while everyone is going to bed, my daughter lets out the most horrific scream I have ever heard. My husband and I run into the living room, and she flings herself into my arms and faints. When she comes to, she tells us that someone banged on her window, and when she looked over she saw a man staring at her. Of course we call the police, and my husband starts searching our property, and the house next to ours, it's been empty for years. Cops find nothing. Next day we add extra locks. I nailed the curtains down so they can't move them, and we try to move on. About 2 weeks later, the person comes back, just tapping, and since then it's been pretty regular. Tapping, knocking, pretending to be a cat. I saw him on our porch. My 8-year-old saw him peeping through the window on the front door. We have called the police, we have stayed up all night waiting, we have hidden trying to catch this person outside. Nothing works, no one can catch him. My kids either sleep in the living room or our bedroom. We don't go out after dark, we don't stay home alone. The cops patrol and we have a detective investigating this, but he's never caught. He came back last night at 2 a.m., but the kid was too scared to get out of bed to wake us up. We are trying to move and I have ordered cameras. My landlord wouldn't let me get cameras until I had the detective call him. I'm scared to go to sleep, because I don't want to miss the text message from my kid, telling me he's here, and her have to be scared until she passes out. Thank you for listening. Be sure to watch this video for a moment. I hope to see you on my next video.